welcome to Yardley Talks. I'm not even supposed to be having this conversation that I'm getting ready to have today. And so this one is going to be a little different. Next week's episode, we'll go back to the other format of me just sharing. But I am triggered and pushed to have a conversation with you all today. because something brought me to a place where I didn't know I was, because I had to admit that I have triggers. Um, I have triggers. Triggers are something that come as a result of traumatic experiences. And I don't like to admit certain things about myself because, believe it or not, I kind of want to be the best person that I can be. I want to be the best husband, best father, best pastor, best friend, best kind of guy that I can be. But in being that, sometimes you have to admit things and submit to areas in your life that you don't want to admit or submit to or believe you are at. And I have and had to admit yesterday that I have a lot of struggles and triggers and trauma. Even though I work on it daily, I'm becoming better. I've gone to counseling, which I would suggest, even if you're saved, go to counseling. You don't always need to go to a Christian counselor. You just need to go to let somebody lay on somebody's couch and let somebody talk to you. But anyway, I'm dealing with these triggers from my traumatic experiences that I've had in my life. And let me just say, a trigger is an emotional reaction to a disturbing topic, or it's something that reminds you of trauma or traumatic experience. Triggers, you feel like you are experiencing the moment or time all over again. It's different from being uncomfortable, because when you're uncomfortable, you're just like, I don't like it. But a trigger causes the trauma to come back, and you feel like you're reliving that moment all over again. And yesterday, I felt that moment all over again, and it rose in me so much that even after the moment was over and things had come back, I couldn't get back to Yardley. It was tough for me to get back to Yardley. We're in the middle of a campaign for our church, where the Lord has been kind to us to get settled into our new worship space, because the worship space we have has become too small, and our children's area has become too small, and so the Lord has, in His all-wise, sovereign wisdom and amazing power, has saw fit to open the door for us to get a new worship space. And so, but we have to knock walls out and do different things and buy chairs, because we have borrowed chairs. We want to buy new chairs, even though these chairs we can keep them. We want everything to be fresh for our new space and upgrade things. And so I'm reaching out, and so the Google does a Google thing, and it does the Google thing. Someone reaches back to me and basically says what they say to me. I should have called them, and then I said, my apologies, it's the Google, and whatever it was, and they come back and they respond a certain way, and it reminded me of something, and I became so angry. So at that moment, I called them back. And so I'm going ham. I'm going ham, because I'm like, I'm in the middle of doing something, and here it is. I'm busting my butt to make these things happen, and the church and me and God is leading us in this direction. And if you want to sow, you can sow. If you don't, then don't. And I'm hot fire and fish grease, going crazy, because I'm so upset and I'm so angry because of something the person said. They said to me, if there's a problem, we need to talk you need to call me as a man. And I said, wait, I don't apologize for Google. I've apologized for Google. It wasn't even my bad. And so, and I'm like, wait, and that's what I'm hanging on. That's what I'm hanging on. I can't let that part go, because I'm like, wait a minute, as a man, what you trying to say? What you trying to say about me? And so I call, and I'm going in. Then they make another statement. Well, if this is something to the effect of, now this is not what he said, because I was so angry, I missed it. If we're going to have any relationship going forward, and I cut him off. He wasn't done talking, but I cut him off, because that little piece shot me into a whole nother space. And it set me on fire, because my thought process is, at that moment, this is why I don't have friends. Because people leave and they don't come back or they find reasons to quit. This is why tough talks, I don't like having tough talks. Because I told you I apologize, and then you came back with something that wasn't even happening. And I mean, my feelings were hurt, and I was so angry, and it made me feel like I was being treated like a child. And I'm like, I've been out here busting my butt, doing this thing, doing what I'm supposed to do, trying to make certain things happen, and just me, the church, and God, and nobody. We haven't asked anybody for anything. I've gotten blamed for stuff we didn't do. We've had to start all over, and I'm out here starting all over, and nobody. And if you, especially, and not this particular person, but especially those people who said they're my daddy's friends, regardless of me or not, if you believed in his vision, you should have been looking out for us, and so regardless of how I am or not. But I know why I don't reach out to people, because I'm afraid that people leave, and this is the reason why. Here it is. This is the reason why. And if you really believed in it, you shouldn't have to. And oh my gosh. Moment calms down. I apologize, not from my stance, because I believe in where I stand, but for how I approached it, and then not listen all the way. But I knew why I didn't listen all the way, because the beginning of the statement put me into a place, took me all the way back to when I watched my friend Jared crossing the street, get hit by a car, and die in front of me when I was at Earl Warren Elementary School. It took me all the way back to when I decided I didn't want friends. That's why I don't want to be around people. Because in my head, when you said that, you were saying in the relationship. Now what you're saying, what he was actually saying, that in situations like this, if we're going to have a relationship in situations like this, I prefer that. But I never got there, because all I saw when he said that was Jared. All I saw when he said that was the times me and my father had fractured relationship. And then if you're not going to be this, then you can't be connected to me. And I'm like, wait, I got a family, I got a wife, I got kids, I got a dog. I don't got a dog. I got one sick kid over here who's at the hospital right now. I got another one who's got the diabetes. I got another one who's just crazy. I mean, trying to the church. We're back in church, but because of what's happening, I live by gospel. I preach. My money's gone down, but that's cool. I ain't tripping on that, because people want to sow into my life. Great. I don't take the tithes and offerings. That's for the Lord's house. I don't do that kind of stuff. But we're thriving. Things are happening. The church is growing. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm out here doing, and I lost it because I was triggered. It took me all the way back to when people would say certain things to me like, you ain't going to be nothing without this. Or when I was told, I did a record actually before I did the Hear Me Now record that went number 9 on Gospel Billboard charts worldwide, number 9, then number 13 respectively, Gospel Billboard charts worldwide. I was a bullet right under Kirk Franklin, and 2016. And so, yeah, personal plug. And so, I'm like, I did that. Did you do that? No, you did not do that. And so I'm about to call a roll on. I'm about to go in. I got a wife. You got one? Okay, great. I got a church. You got one? Oh, great. I'm about to call. You wasn't successful. I've been successful. Oh, great. I'm about to go ham. Things I shouldn't say. Things I don't want to say. Things that probably ain't even true because it took me all the way back to when people would tell me I wasn't good enough. To when I was told by people who should have been loving on me, people should have been pushing me, that I couldn't do it, and the only way I could do it was with their help. Until I realized everything I was doing was without their help. I was manipulated into believing that they were doing the work when I was actually doing the work. I was manipulated, I'm going to say this, by this big old overweight prophet lady who was like, I was going to live off the church. That's all. But I didn't realize I was doing the work. I got evicted working for the church while everybody else was getting paid. And I got evicted. And so I'm believing what these people are selling. And that same old overweight lady, prophet lady, gonna tell me I need to go to the dentist and have them take my teeth out so I can be more presentable. Y'all better believe. See, that's why I gotta have Yardley talks, so I'll be ready to cuss. Not in Jesus' name either. Because, I got a loose relationship with these prophet people who want to prophesy one thing but don't know the whole truth. Want to call me and tell me how things are in my life, but because you've heard from but you got your information from a source, from a source. And so now you're trying to prophesy to me, but you're not realizing that the source is the wrong part. The source is just using you to try to guilt trip me back. So I'm like, dude, that yesterday in that moment, it brought me all the way back. Even though in that moment, after he said what he said, I got what he was saying. And I clearly understood what he was saying. That he wasn't saying I was wrong. He just wanted different as a result of our relationship. And I was like, my bad. And why couldn't you just say my bad? He was like, you know what? You're right. I got to do this. And so I was able to say, well, do me this solid. Do me this solid. Treat me this way. You want this? I want this. Let's do that together. I want you to treat me this way. And cool, good, all good. We got the phone, and I felt bad because I made him responsible for my triggers. And it wasn't even his fault. All it was going to be, hey, bro, come on, man. That's not what I meant. Well, I feel like you should have just called me. Well, then you should have said, just call me. Could have been over. But because I have some trauma, a lot of trauma in me, that thing, it got me. It got me bad. Like, super bad. And so I'm sitting there thinking, like, should I call back? And should I? I'm like, I mean, if I do, I do. If I don't, I don't. I apologize, and I think we're good, and I believe he's good because he's always been good with me. He and I, we've always had regardless of what was going on with everybody else, he and I, we've always had a good relationship. Now, I don't know, I'm one of those people, you can fail other people, but if you don't fail me, we're good. He's never failed me. This guy, I'm talking about this gentleman, that he's never failed me. He's always been 100 with me. All the way through. Went all the way through. Not one time in my life now, I don't know what he did with other people, but has he failed me? Always being on point with me. Always. From I was like 9 years old, and he saw something in me, and he told me, and he's treated me that way ever since. But in this moment, I felt like something different. And I got triggered, not from current, but from my past, and it came all the way back. All the way back. And I know many of us right now, we're just now, especially like African Americans, we're just now embracing triggers and not suppressing them. And we're understanding that trauma is not based upon physical trauma, but it's also mental and emotional, psychological. We're discovering that many of us have PTSD from our childhood, because we was told to quit acting when things happen. We saw told to go to bed, take some NyQuil, get some Robitussin, go drink a ginger ale, drink some 7-Up, and if you was fancy, get you a Sprite, and now get some ginger candy. Go lay down. We only thought it was traumatic if it was physical, but we didn't know that most of our trauma comes from emotional, psychological, mental, and most of our trauma comes from our childhood. Most of our trauma comes from family. Most of our abuse comes from family. We didn't know. We thought we were supposed to be treated like that. Come on, even talking about getting whooped. Don't you see how that goes back to the traumatic experiences of our foreparents, then the traumatic experience of their foreparents? You keep people in line by whipping them. Let's go back to slavery. So we were taught in slavery that we keep you in line by beating you. We scare you, but how many can testify the whipping didn't keep me in line, it made me slicker? Come on, go get a switch off a tree. So I got to go get the switch that you're going to use to whip me, child, please. You've got to be kidding me. The trauma of not being able to say anything, and now you're an adult, and now they want you to talk, and you don't know how to talk. I remember growing up, we couldn't have friends who weren't Christians, and we were told if they weren't Christians, then if we have friends that weren't Christians, that meant our light wasn't shining. That meant our light wasn't shining. That means we weren't being good representatives. But come to find out that the people telling us they had unsaved friends. They had drug dealing friends and lying friends and cussing friends. But they were telling us that if we didn't have all of our friends weren't saved, and Jesus didn't even have friends, all his friends weren't even following his way. And so what happens? You just don't make friends. And because I'm different, other people did. Because I'm different, I already had a tough time making friends because of my fear of rejection, and then my inability to have things to talk about like other people. I sit around after church and wonder what people are talking about most of the time. Like, that's why I don't do mingling things very well. I don't network because I have a tough time figuring out what people are talking about and why they're still talking. I don't know, network. And so, but being told that, and then all of a sudden, when you're like 17, why don't you have friends? Well, because I couldn't, because they wasn't Christians. And so if they wasn't Christians, and then it was like there was something wrong because you didn't, but they didn't put anything there. And so now you have this fear of rejection when you're 35, and you have these fears based upon the fact that you were told that if anybody, or treat every girl like your sister. That's what we were told. All the girls, you treat every. I used to get in trouble for having a girlfriend. I mean, getting doggone trouble for having a girlfriend. That's a whole nother conversation I have another time. I mean, I'm like, a girl? Because I like girls? Am I not supposed to like girls? I mean, I'm supposed to, right? I think I am. I think I should. I mean, that's the best way to be for me, in my spirit, man, to like the girls. But get in trouble, and then all girls should be your friends. But then, you don't got a girlfriend yet? What? Sorry. Well, what? Oh. These things just add up. Being told somebody will say something to you that will remind you, and just these things just come up. And so I'm dealing with this. I'm dealing with these traumatic experiences, and I'm trying to figure them out. Discovering that most of my trauma came from my childhood. Most of it came from my childhood, and realizing with my siblings that some things I put away and I thought weren't real, discovered that they actually were real. I just hid them in my mind. I didn't want them to come up, and then when they come up, now I'm sitting with them for like 2 weeks. After yesterday, I was going back and I was thinking, will people really believe in me? Will people really believe that I am who I say I am? Do people think that our church is broke because I'm asking people to join us? And so it's like, well, then what people are thinking, what was said about me is actually true, that I never amount to anything. These are the things that were happening in my head over into today, the next day. Because of this, would people think that I'm not real, and would people think that all the work that we've been doing is for naught and we've done nothing? Would people think that I actually tore the church up, and now I'm trying to build back and use people to build it back? Will people actually think that that I actually did it? When I've done everything in my power to hold it and rebrand it and make it so it's mission driven and vision driven and not personality driven. Because personality driven churches and ministries and groups were good during the conference era, but it's a different time now. It's a different time now. And yes, a great personality is good, but can it be sustainable after that personality is gone? So these things were going in my head, and I realized that a lot of people's substance abuse and eating disorders and anxiety and depression and the cutting and the sleeping around, the whoremongering is as a result of dealing with the trauma, dealing with the triggers of the trauma. And so when I'm triggered, when I see something, when I hear something, when I feel something, I act out the best way that I know how to soothe it, or to make the feelings from my traumatic experience evaporate. So thus people, they do drugs, they smoke, they shoot up. Some people cut. People have eating disorders where they eat a lot, or they'll binge, or they'll purge, or they just won't, or they'll do anorexia and they won't eat at all. Anxiety will rise. Depression will come in. Some people even, they use sleeping around, having several partners, and we're talking about people being a whoremonger. You a whoremonger, and you a hoe, and you just don't want to, and you sleeping around. Did you do? People, a lot of people aren't there just sleeping around. Your husband or your wife, lean in for a second. It's going to sound not too spiritual. They're not just sleeping around on you. They're sleeping around themselves because they're trying to fill something up. It's not you. Stop blaming yourself. You're not responsible for their trigger. Stop blaming yourself and saying it's not you. It could be their trauma, their traumatic experience. It could be what they were going through. It could be what happened to them. I'm all over the map today, which brings me to another trigger, church. It brings me to something I don't like to talk about, but church hurt. People actually have that. It's real. Some people do, some people don't. Some people use it as their way to say they don't, that's why they don't go to church, and that's fine. Some people, it's really real. Some traumatic things happen. Some people, instead of blaming the stuff where it really came from, what happened is they were triggered at church from their traumatic experience. And so now church is the issue, but the real issue isn't church. The real issue is something else, but it was triggered there. And so now, like, people don't want to deal with leaders, and that's why I don't believe in no pastor. 9 times out of 10, if you're like, I don't believe in pastors or leader, that means you probably don't deal with leaders as a whole for the most part, because something about them doesn't work for you. It's trauma, it's triggers. It's like, I can't deal with that because I don't trust people who try to be over me. So somebody said the other day, I read this, it says, quote, it says, people will get shot at the club and go back the next weekend, but get talked about in church and won't come back all year. Can I tell you why I can't high five or even like that comment right there? Let me read it again. People will get shot at the club and go back the next weekend, but get talked about in church and won't come back all year. And people are like, you right. And I used to you write that statement, but you want the reason why I cannot you write that statement? Here it is. Because I have expectations of church that I don't have at the club. I know at the club somebody might get shot. I don't expect to get shot at church. So I go to the club knowing that is every time I go to the club, that's a possibility. I don't go to church to expect being talked about. You go to your family reunion and they dog you out. Because I used to say this, you be with your family, you keep going back there. Yeah, I know when I go to my family, they're gonna talk about somebody gonna fight, because that happens every year. I don't expect to go to church and have a fight. Why does the church want people to reverence it, but then we don't create the reverencing space? We don't make it a safe space. And so when people are hurt by what shouldn't happen, instead of changing it, what we do is we get mad at people and we say to them, well, you go there, but you don't come here, because I don't expect that to happen there. That's why most of us have trauma from home, because I didn't expect for my uncle to touch me. That didn't happen to me. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't expect for my aunt to be kissing on my ear and licking on my earlobe. But that's what 15, 16, 17-year-old boys do. I'm not saying give them a pass. I expect at the liquor store somebody to fight. I don't expect somebody to break it on a fight at church because somebody stole somebody's girlfriend, a boyfriend, a husband, a wife. So that I can't go with that comment because we want the church to be on a higher level. But then when it comes to something like that, we bring the church down so people can say, okay, cool. No, it's not okay. It's not. Church should be a safe haven. It should be a safe space. It should be a place where people can talk about their traumas and rather not talk about it next Sunday. It should be that safe space. It should be that safe haven. It should be that place where people go and they're okay. It should not be a place where people are triggered, but people go to church and get triggered, and then we get mad that they get triggered because we haven't said, no, we can't do that anymore. People are triggered by offerings. That's why, and when people, you gotta teach, no, we've been hustling people and taking advantage of people all these years when it comes to money. And it's not just because people, and that preachers are triggered because about the people like preachers don't want to talk about money. Yeah, we're triggered because people keep saying that because the last nine pastors ago, that pastor stole the money. And now every time there's an offering, every comedian gets up and says, preacher, take all the money. Or when somebody talks about something on social media, somebody comes in there, yeah, because that's why I don't do it because the preacher got a big old Cadillac and da. Because he got a full-time job. And so churches don't want to talk about money, because when they do, so now church is triggered. So you're triggered sitting in church, and church is triggered because you're sitting there because they know if they talk about money, somebody might say, yeah, because the preacher wants all the money, when the preacher ain't even got a car because he walks. How many pastors and ministers and bishops have sacrificed their money? There's only one T.D. Jakes. There's only one Joel Osteen. Most of us have churches of 100 people, 60 people or less, with about 20 to 30 people coming to church. Most of us, that's our lot in life. That's our lot with our churches. That's all we have. And these things are what happens, and people are triggered, and they're triggered, and they're triggered, and they're pushed, and they're triggered, and they're pushed, and they're triggered, and they're pushed. Women don't come to church expecting to get hit on. Well, you go to the club and somebody hit on you every day, and you don't be like, well, the DJ know. When they get to the club, they know from the door to the floor they're going to get hit on. They know even in the bathroom now, one of the cute sisters that they thought, she's so pretty. Now she's like, what's that? Or the brothers, what's up? You're like, hey, bro, I don't go that way. I don't do that, not tonight. Right? But they don't come. They don't. Okay, you like her, approach her. But they don't want Deacon Johnson whispering in her ear, leaving his slob on her ear. That's not why I came here. You single, I'm single. Approach me like a human being. I expect the church approach to be different from the club approach because it's supposed to be a safe haven. It's supposed to be a place for broken people. Church is supposed to be a place for broken people where people can come get healed. Many of us have triggers from the double standard of leadership. I know I do. The double standard of leadership in church where the preachers will stand on the roster and not move, and then they jump up talking about y'all better shout, but you haven't moved the whole time. What gives you the audacity to be a worship watcher and then tell me to shout? Who are you, sir? Or you can say whatever you want to say, and then when I say something back, you want to holler, touch my anointed vessel. But fathers, don't provoke your sons to wrath. But I'm anointed too. Well, I'm in leadership. Then you should wait till it's over to say something to me. Don't embarrass me publicly. I don't care if you're a bishop or a pastor or an apostle. Don't do that. Ever. Don't do that to people. It's not right. They don't want to kick people out of church and have them drug out of church. Now, I know there's another side. There's always another side. But the other side is not what people are triggered from. The other side is what they grew up watching. They grew up watching us prophesying to certain people, but then we don't like them, so we don't prophesy to them. We don't like them, so we don't lay hands on them. So now they don't go to church at all. There's a whole generation who don't go to church right now because of giving. Because giving was taught wrong. Because they watched grandma and them put all that money in offering and got nothing back. It was unfair. They watched the preacher. Everybody had faith but the preacher. Because he knew he was getting paid at the end of the day. But grandma, it was the 14th of the month, and that's all she had. She put that in there. And she had to have hot dogs and top ramen all month long. And so now these millennials and these Gen Xers are like, I ain't giving nothing. Well, excuse me, more so millennials. I watch my grandma. I'll go, but I only give. And so now I don't give out of my need. I give out of what I have. And if I don't have, I'm not giving. You can't tell these millennials and these ones coming, these Gen Z and these alphas who are coming up. You're going to give out. If it's not what you need, it's just a seed. They'll be like, yeah, it's my seed. Why ain't the church investing? Why is the church supposed to be God's building? Why is the church still begging every single week? I had to continue with that too, with us asking for people to sow. Am I begging? Because of traumatic experience of watching church beg all the time. And then looking at the amount of people we have, and people say, well, if it ain't enough, just merge. I'm like, should we merge? What the heck? And I discovered I got triggers. I get set off. I get set all the way off, and many people don't. The abuse of church, the trauma of church, and us living by that and holding on to it because it happened, but it wasn't right. The abuse of people not letting you know and then putting you up and then saying you have to do what you don't have to do. You do it because I'm the bishop or I'm the pastor and I said so. No, sir. You can ask me at an appropriate time, sir. How people take advantage of you because you're there. They'll, come on and sing. No, I won't sing. And then you feel bad if you say no because you shouldn't tell the preacher no. The preacher should check with me. Or someone not too long ago, they posted that a church called them and asked them to come sing. And they said, this is how much I charge. And they said, oh, we don't have that in the budget. And they said, well, I can't do it because this is what I charge. And I hear you out there talking about it's a ministry. Well, go to your job and say it's a ministry too. Go to your job and say it's a ministry too and don't get paid for it every time you do something, but people want to use you. I'll wait on people who always want to holler ministry until it's money coming out of their pockets. And so what this guy did is that, so he says, I'm not mad. I'm just going to go and I'm just going to support. And so he's there to support. And so the pastor who asked him to come sing, who said he couldn't pay him, said, before the preacher come, brother said, we want to have him come sing. So the gentleman got up. He said, I'm so grateful to God for being here tonight. I don't want to belabor the time. The preacher is here. And so you know what? We don't need to sing a song. We need to go ahead and have the man of God come forward and we sat down. Don't take advantage of me because we're in church. Don't use your role, your leadership role, your pastoral role. And then because I've had the opportunity to operate on both ends. No, don't do that. But then the other end is you have singers and musicians and stuff who take advantage of church. And so now you have churches that some churches are like, I'd rather not have musicians because you got musicians who are out there talking about, so what? The church can't run without musicians. Child, please, we ran well in the pandemic. And these Church of Christ people, they don't have music. And there's tracks now. Hello, Hoop Triggers. Hello, C-Dub. If you don't have music, I'll give you some. And then people on the flip side, don't live off church. You live off your job. You just have to know where you are. And if they can afford it, then don't live off it. But if they can, don't take advantage of me. If you can be a blessing to me, and if I'm doing you a service, don't take advantage of me. And you have so many sides of these things where not one side, the pastors aren't the only ones right. The musicians aren't the only ones right. Some musicians are charging too much. Some aren't getting paid their value. But see, I'm in a different position. I've worked on both sides and I continue to work on both sides. When you go to the casino and you play for 3 hours with a 15-minute break, you'll make $250 to $300 for 2.5 hours worth of music. Did you hear what I said? $250 to $300 for 2.5 hours worth of music. But then you come to church and you want to play 3 or 4 songs total for an hour and a half service and charge $500. Absolutely not. No. And then you don't even learn the song like the record. And the rest of the music, you just playing mood music. You just twiddling the keys. Absolutely not. But then on the flip side, you learn your music. You do everything you're supposed to do. And they side you $20. That ain't even gas money. $50. That's not even gas money. Be fair, man. Be fair, man. But these are traumatic experiences that people have. Things that we go through, things that hurt us, things that bother us. And we all have them. I want to say 2 things and then I'll let you go. I got to leave you with something. Number 1, I want to tell you, don't be afraid to address it. Address your trigger. Admit that you have it. Address your trauma. Name your trauma. Not the results of your trauma, but name your trauma. I told a friend of mine the other day, one of my closest friends, all those things that you did were reactions to what happened, to what the real issue is. This is the real issue here. Let's deal with the real issue. Because if you don't, it comes up in different areas and it's going to ruin your whole life. So name your trauma. Admit not the symptoms of it, not what comes out of it, but what is it? What is it that got me here? Find it out. Go lay on somebody's couch. Go talk to somebody. Have open dialogue with your family. Have open dialogue with your friends. Name it. Find out. Don't be afraid to own it. Number 2, don't make those in your current life responsible for your triggers. But let them know you have them. Talk about it. Let them know you have it. But don't make them responsible for them. Say, you know what? I'm going through something right now. I got a trigger. Let me go. If they want to be there, be there. But other than that, because I don't want to take this out on you. Because you take it out on the people who you love, those people right around you. Number 3, it's okay to get help outside of sanctuary help. Prayer isn't the only answer. Reading your Bible isn't the only answer. How many people read the Bible and know the Bible line upon line, precept upon precept? They have a great prayer life, but they still struggle. They still struggle. Get some help from a professional. Get some help. Number 4, embrace it, because some of it isn't going anywhere. What's my proof text? You want Bible? Here's my proof text. Paul went to God 3 times and I have a thorn in my flesh. God didn't take. God said, my grace is sufficient. I got trauma. I got triggers. You got trauma. You got triggers. We all got it. Deal with it. Embrace it. Talk about it. Learn from it. And then learn to live with it. I love y'all. And I appreciate y'all for having this talk with me. All right, y'all. I gotta go. Hey, it's Yardley Griffin, Yardley Talks. If you enjoyed what you saw and you like this content, you like this platform, do me a favor. Go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube, Yardley Griffin TV. Subscribe to our TikTok, Yardley Griffin TV. Follow our Facebook, Yardley Griffin. You can even send the Cashapp Yardley Griffin. Let's get this thing in. Let's subscribe. Let's build. Let's create more content together so we can help we can help people. We can bless people. We can change lives. And we can do this thing. Yardley Talks. As always, I gotta go. Peace.